Living Local Carolina with Katie Turner. Local trends, shopping, dining, and more. This is Living Local Carolina.
The following portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on Living Local Carolina. Well, I'm back in the studio with my friends from Beach Injury Lawyers, Will and Greg. It's been a minute.
It has, and thank you again for having us. Good morning.
Good morning, Katie.
It's good to be back.
It is great to be back. It's been a while.
And we want some updates. So in the time that we've spent apart, what is new with you guys? And you have a little update for me.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. We'll get into more of it. But the first thing that we wanted to do was we have been doing something for our clients, really only for our clients, which is doing last wills and testaments. We do those for a special price for our clients, $250 for one person and $500 for a couple. We also throw in a last declaration, what's called a living will. So those two documents for, again, $250 for one person, $500 for a couple. And we decided to expand that to the community. What we've realized is that most people don't need a complex trust or anything like that. Most people just need a very simple will and a statement expressing what they would like to do in certain situations near the end of life. So since we've gotten so many calls about it from our own clients, we decided to extend it to the public. We just want people to call and say, saw you on Living Local, and we'll be happy to give them the rate. And one of the reasons that we wanted to do that is what we've heard. Greg and I were talking before the show. A lot of our clients are under the impression that if they die without a will and they're married, that their wife is going to get everything. And that's not the case in South Carolina. Their wife would get half, and then their children would get, if they have two children, the two children would split the other half in equal shares, et cetera. And that's just sort of a misnomer. So that's been something that we'd like to help people out with. We also try to help people avoid probate altogether. And some things that you can do there is the way your deed on your house is worded, the way titles are worded on your vehicles. So those are things we go through to just try to help people make the process easier.
And what happens if you don't get that done?
Well, if you do not get that done, again, if you're married, your spouse will get half of if you have children, your spouse will get half, and then the children will take in even shares. Some people have children they don't necessarily want to get even shares for different reasons.
Okay.
Let's say they've already received an advance or maybe a substance abuse problem or something. And if you don't do that, they're going to take their share. You can admit a child in South Carolina, but you have to specifically do it. In terms of a spouse, you can't necessarily admit a spouse. They're going to receive what's called an elective share, which is 1/3. But you can put that in there and sort of reduce that amount. So at least you have control rather than allowing the state to dictate the decisions for you.
And is there a better time to do this? Or can you kind of just do it whenever you want? If you're already married, if you haven't gotten married yet?
As soon as possible.
ASAP.
Well, as Greg and I can both tell you, we unfortunately we see this on, say a monthly basis where we get an accident case where someone lost their life. So as soon as possible. I mean, it's never too early, but it can certainly be too late.
And with living wills and powers of attorney, unfortunately, you will see families divided. Something horrible happens to a family member, and they've suffered catastrophic injuries, and half the family will take a position that, well, this is what they would have wanted. The other half of the family will say, no, this is what they would have wanted, and it becomes a battle. And the person who is suffering, who's on a ventilator, who may not have wanted to be on a ventilator, they're stuck on the ventilator until the family can work things out. So if you have a living will, you can it's all right there. It answers all the questions as to what you want when something bad happens. But it again lays it out, and there's really no argument after that.
Gotcha. So before we go to break, where can people call you guys to get all that set up?
Sure, give us a call at Beach Injury Lawyers. That's 843-357-4111. Or you can make a consultation online. That's beachinjurylawyers.com.
And coming up after the break, we're going to be doing my favorite segment that we do with Beach Injury Lawyers, What's New in the Law? So you don't want to miss this. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We'll be back right after this break with more Living Local Carolina.
Welcome back to Living Local Carolina. I'm hanging out with the guys from Beach Injury Lawyers, and we are doing our segment called What's New in the Law? So, Will and Greg, tell me, we have a new law that we're just been talking about daycare workers.
Yeah, there's my children are grown, so I was not aware of this, but there is a huge shortage of daycare workers in South Carolina. And the primary author of the bill in the Senate owns a daycare. And so what it does is it changes the educational requirements to be a daycare worker. Under the old law, you used to have a GED or a high school diploma in order to work in a daycare. And due to the shortage, what they've done now is they're allowing certificates of completion, which is designed for people who, for whatever reason, they weren't able to get a diploma or a GED, for again, some intellectually disabled people are challenged, were not able to complete it. So it opens the door, and then just in reading some of the reports, that was part of what the law was aimed for, was to let people who do have challenges to come in and work in a daycare setting. And they also have to do a 15-hour health and safety program. So again, it opens it up as to who can work in a daycare setting.
My question is, for people who have a GED or who have a high school diploma, do they also have to do the 15-hour training?
They don't.
Okay.
They do not.
Gotcha.
They do not. So again,
Okay.
the 15-hour health and safety is going to be for the new folks coming in that have a certificate of completion.
I gotcha. Do you have any thoughts, Will?
Well, I have 2 young children. I know that daycare is very difficult to find, and it is very expensive, right? I think, and you see the billboards where work is not possible without daycare. So I think it is a need. Should you make that part of the consideration when choosing a daycare, possibly?
Gotcha.
I think that's certainly up to the parent, but you could certainly ask, what what percentage of your staff, has high school diploma if you want. It's definitely, at least, we just want to put the knowledge out there, let the parents make the decision.
Because I was torn. I didn't know whether I understood the need for it, but I'm still on the fence as to whether or not I think it's a good idea.
Interesting. Okay. Stuff to think about. We also have another thing to do with children as well: child luring and trafficking survivors.
Yeah, this one is a huge round of applause to our assembly. It's great to report when there's a very good change. I don't think there's going to be much opposition to this one. Previously, a child molester, someone who was into human trafficking, they would actually have to lure the child to the vehicle, and the door would have to close before they had committed a criminal act. You always see the old, vans with, hey, come get the candy kind of thing. Well, until the door was closed, there was no way to punish, the person that had not committed a criminal offense. Now, child luring is a criminal offense and is punishable up to 10 years in prison. It also goes further into really other good steps, I think, that are necessary, because human trafficking is a huge problem, and it's a hidden problem in plain sight. And in the South, the statistics are much worse. So one of the things it does is, when a minor is under the control of someone and they're being trafficked and they commit a crime, a nonviolent crime, these crimes are now able to be expunged. So because they're essentially being forced to do it, not at their own, not by choice. The other thing it does, it protects our identity. So after, once everything's done, their address will be redacted, so there won't be, or can't be, or at least limits the chance of retaliation against the minor, if the human trafficker is prosecuted.
Gotcha.
So those are all great things, and really happy that happened. Yeah.
I think we were talking earlier, there were around 400 cases of human trafficking brought last year in South Carolina. and of course in the larger states, it's a much bigger issue. But still, with 400 cases, that's a lot. That's a lot, and probably 96% of those involve minors,
Yeah.
which is tragic.
Yeah, that's
And my
awful.
guess is there are many more that are not reported.
That aren't reported.
So this was a big step.
Huge,
Amen.
huge.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Well, thanks, guys, for sharing what's new in the law. Coming up, we're going to be talking to Dr. Kelly Wright, a chiropractor, so stay tuned.
We'll be back right after this break with more Living Local Carolina.
Well, thanks for sticking with us today on Living Local Carolina. I've been hanging out with the guys from Beach Injury Lawyers, and we're doing a community spotlight. We are joined today by Dr. Kelly Wright from Big Wave Chiropractic. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, how do you know these guys?
We have coached. I've treated some of their clients in the past. We offer assistance on the conservative care side of that, whether that's chiropractic or any sort of therapies that their injured patients may need. Oftentimes, those patients find their way into my office after hopefully going to the hospital first, seeing medical, making sure that everything is safe for me to do my part. My biggest part in that is making sure their clients get the best care that they can possibly get. And oftentimes people's lives are, flipped upside down when they're in a wreck or something like that, or they've slipped and slipped and fell. And what we try to do is get them back to the best version of themselves of what they were like prior to that accident, so that they can go on and live their lives and do the things that they need to do, whether that's go to work or take care of their kids.
And you have a bit of a personal reason why you went into your field in the first place, right?
I do. I got into chiropractic in a very strange sense of an injury. Like a lot of chiropractors, an injury took me into a chiropractor's office in a really roundabout way. In college, I was playing baseball, took a line drive off the face while I was pitching, and blew up my face. So got a nice free nose job out of it, which was nice. But along with that, yeah, it's, you can get a free nose job in college. They made it a little bit smaller, so it made me a little bit prettier. But the one thing that it left me with was severe migraines. And I tried everything, tried medicine, tried everything. And then eventually my uncle was like, hey, go to the chiropractor and see. And I was like, nah, we don't really do that. Our family, we always thought of chiropractors as being something of like a quackopractor. My dad always used to kind of joke around
lovely.
saying that. But it's funny, and whenever he's hurt, he always makes his way into my office now. But anyways, got to see this guy. He really explained to me, the human body is very complex, but the fact is God gave us all this stuff to heal from those injuries. And whenever you just get those bones out of the way, we tend to function the way he designed us. So getting those bones out of the way and making sure our brain and nervous system can communicate with the rest of it, that clicked a light bulb in my brain. I was like, I like this, and plus, migraines go away, I start getting adjusted, that's really nice, but I was like, why don't enough people know about this? So I kind of flipped gears. I was wanting to go to medical school, but decided let's go to chiropractic school, and it's worked out great for me and my family, and I'm able to change people's lives on a daily basis, and it's something that I would have liked to have done in some capacity, but it's nice to be able to do that without the use of drugs and surgery.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Will and I are also patients.
I was literally just about to ask. Have you cracked their backs yet?
Yeah. Well, Greg's a little tough, but yeah, Will's pretty easy to work with.
I had never been to a chiropractor before. I was always hesitant to go to a chiropractor. My father was, he went to chiropractors and just said it's the best thing ever, and I absolutely refused to do it. Yeah. And it wasn't until last year that I finally decided to go, and I called Kelly, and he was very gentle. And but that's the first time I'd been treated by a chiropractor. And it was great.
Yep.
It was great.
I'll say you're about 6'3". You walked into my office at about 5'8". So we had to get you a little bit taller.
Yeah, but I was a lot thinner then.
You
too,
were.
So
I don't know what happens.
Yeah, I don't either.
He also has an amazing red light therapy that I
I've heard
injured.
about this.
I injured my shoulder, and
Cool.
Yeah, we've got a couple of really cool therapies in the office. One being class 4 laser, which is a red light laser. But we use that for a lot of soft tissue injuries. Especially in some of the personal injury patients where they have a lot of soft tissue injury. It is one of those things that we can kind of expedite their healing process, along with some of the manipulative therapies that we use. It is a very, very good therapy for some of my post-operative patients too, to help that healing process happen a lot faster. Have a couple of knee replacement patients this morning that we worked on. It was pretty awesome. Another one is non-surgical spinal decompression.
Ooh.
And that's for the lumbar spine in our office. So a lot of those people with herniated disc, bulging discs, really just facet issues down in that lumbar spine. That chronic low back pain is something as simple as that. We see patients every day for that and see awesome results.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much. And guys, please remind our viewers who love you so much where they can get in contact with you.
You can give us a call at 843-357-4111 or
On the World Wide Web at www.beachinjurylawyers.com or on our Instagram, IG, Beach Injury Lawyers.
The preceding portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers.